The Most Absurd Deaths of Kings Part 9. Alexander III, King of Scotland. The death of Alexander III, nicknamed the Glorious, in 1286 was significant in many respects, as it marked the beginning of the First War of Scottish Independence. It was said that the king's death was indirectly caused by his drinking a bottle of his favourite Bordeaux wine. Alexander III was found lying at the foot of a cliff with a broken neck on a road back to Kinghorn Castle. Sources suggest that in the darkness he was riding too fast along the dangerous coastal path. Being drunk, his horse stumbled, and they both were killed. Charles X, King of France. Let's be frank, Charles X was far from the best French king in history. It was during his reign that numerous religious wars took place, as well as one of the bloodiest and most shameful events in French history, the Street Bartholomew's Day Massacre. The circumstances surrounding the king's death remain unclear to this day. Officially, it is believed that he died of an illness that worsened after the Street Bartholomew's Day Massacre. Perhaps the dying Huguenots cursed the king at the age of 23. According to the autopsy report, the cause of death was secondary pleurisy, which developed against the background of a tuberculous infection. However, historians believe that Charles X may have died from poisoning, with the pages of a book on falconry being soaked in poison. This unusual death is believed to have been orchestrated by his younger brother Henry, who became Charles's successor on the throne. Incidentally, both brothers were sons of that same Henry E, who was killed by a splintered lance at a tournament. An unlucky family, wouldn't you agree? Prince Soddo, Korea Soddo Seoja, the second son of the Korean King Yongjo from the Joseon dynasty, was known for his bad temper and, as historians believe, suffered from a mental illness. In fits of rage, the prince could easily kill one of the servants, and he did so with enviable regularity. Sometimes several bodies were carried out of the palace in a single day. When Soddo's cruelty reached its peak, King Yongjo decided to execute him, but he could not do it in the usual way, for example, by beheading, as the high ideals of Confucian morality prohibited the execution of monarchs. Then the ruler ordered him to be locked in a rice storage chest, so that he could think about his behavior. After 8 days spent in the chest, Soddo died of suffocation. Edward IV, King of England in the 15th century. Edward IV ascended the throne. He seized the throne at the War of the Roses between the two branches of the Plantagenet royal dynasty, the Lancasters and the Yorks. The king was known for his excessive craving for women, food, and alcohol. Probably the monarch was the prototype for Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones. Edward IV died suddenly in the spring of 1483 due to an illness. The causes of the king's death are still unclear, and the symptoms described in the chronicles contradict each other. Among the possible versions of the demise, historians name malaria, stroke, and poisoning. Doctors said that after feasts, the monarch regularly took emetics to empty his stomach, and then returned to eating. In addition, he suffered from excess weight and various diseases that could have aggravated his condition. One contemporary suggested that the king's death was caused by apoplexy induced by excessive weight, which is consistent with what is known about his physical habits. Another theory is that Edward died of syphilis. George Washington, President of the USA. George Washington died a foolish death at the age of 67. He was a rather robust man, but somehow, while riding his horse to inspect his estate, he got caught in a rain and snow mix, got soaked, and caught a cold. Of course, his loved ones were very concerned about Washington's health and kept inviting one doctor after another. Unfortunately, medicine at the time was not particularly advanced, and the main treatments were bloodletting and applying mercury chloride. And since each doctor tried to bleed the former president, this had a negative impact on his well-being. As a result, George Washington died from such treatment. Dear friends, if you enjoy our stories, Please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment if you wish.